let's head into the headlines now for the papers and see what headlines are across Nigeria. I have with me in the studio leadership and communication strategist, Dr. John, and political technocrat, Dr. Dayo Kayode. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. But you know that NRC increased their tariff earlier and court asked them to revert it. Has it been reverted?
Well, the point is, let's allow them to handle that. Let's see. Yeah, we'll start with the Daily Trust now. Daily Trust is where we start this morning paper review with. Army goes after traitors as Boko Haram strikes again. 9 abducted women return, 12 still missing. That's what you find on the front page of the Daily Trust. Okay. Blueprint is where we go next. Blueprint says, theater commander to troops, let's wrap up the war and go home. And warns commanders against starving soldiers, debunks withdrawal from Gubio and Megumeri, and Boko Haram burns 73 houses, 28 shops in Konduga. You find all that on the front page of the Blueprint. Scoops from the northeast, I must say. All right, News Direct is where we go next now. News Direct says on a $6 million internet fraud, controversy trails suspension of money transfer to Nigeria. And CBN says 60% LGR, we have commenced commercial credit growth. One of the banks is saying that. And those are some of the headlines on the News Direct. Daily Times is where we go next. Daily Times, Nigeria versus P&ID, $9 billion judgment sum, a fraud, is a question that is a rhetorical question that is there. Lawyers berate government officials, Jonathan, Buhari, all together. It's all right. This controversy still lingers on, but certainly is a great burden on Nigeria to pay $9 billion to P&ID. And that was the judgment of a court in the UK. All right, gentlemen, let me bring you this story on the Daily Trust, and Blueprints precisely would interest you. Theater commander to troops, let's wrap up the war and go home. One would say this is a great motivation, I must say, if you put it that way, a great motivation. Let's get to work. But we have heard this kind of statements from commanders in the last 10 years, especially when it comes to fixing time frames and so on. Dr. What do you make of this?
You see, I have consistently said here on other platform that the war against terror is not a war of deadline. You can't just say, oh, let's just wrap up everything and go home. Why Nigeria we may not be able to assess the direct figure as to how much has been spent fighting terror since it began. I know that in US between 2002 and 2017, about 16% of their entire discretionary budget, which amount to over $2.6 trillion, have been spent in fighting terror. And you still have it all over the place. So the fight against terror is that of consistency, and that's what we do not have. Once this government fights, the other government the other people on the other side risk political meaning to it, and this other one. So you cannot fight terror like that. Secondly is that it has become a business venture. Either anybody wants to talk about it or not. There are people that are feeding fat from the entire process. Unfortunately, from reports we get from even the theater of war, you discover that people are not motivated. That's just the truth. The people that are carrying the guns are not motivated, so they don't have a reason.
You mean the troops, the
yes,
soldiers?
The troops, yes. They don't have a reason to die for the country. You haven't given them a reason to die for the country. So if they have any other means to get money, even if it means collecting money from Boko Haramists by themselves, they will, just to stay alive. Is that, it should have been a motivation, really. But the way we are fighting here, I doubt whether we'll be able to get out of it.
All right, Dr. Kayode, a lot of Nigerians say that they've given kudos to the military one way or the other, because this war is actually a difficult one. It's not a conventional war, and that the soldiers are getting used to how to fight this ideological war gradually.
When you say they are getting used to how to fight ideological war, to what extent have they been able to, based on vacuous statements, that redefines garrulity of all these our commanders. You can imagine the other time they mentioned that, look, Boko Haram have been technically defeated. The other time, it was another thing that they were saying. They look at this one and saying, let us fight this war and go home. Is that how to fight a war? Whereby, number one, the money meant for your soldiers, the money meant for buying equipment are all being pocketed. At least we have been hearing so many news about AFCC quizzing them and all that. We have also seen a situation whereby some years back, some soldiers went on rampage in Akure, Ondo State. You remember? And they were being court-martialed, and I think Femi Falana also came in to their rescue, 28 of them or so. We have also had even these so-called hoodlums.
But you know, certainly in the military circle, soldiers going on rampage for any reason at all.
Yeah, because at that point in time, the thing had gotten to the beep of the matter. So they couldn't bear it anymore, and those guys now came out.
But in the eyes of the military, that is still not justifiable.
When you are saying it is not justifiable, when you are now being asked to go and face enemies with sophisticated weapons, and you are not having anything, what do? And people are being killed every time. You want to be killed? Instead of you to be killed anyhow in the war front, it's better you come out and talk. And that's exactly what happened that time. Going further, how do you win a war whereby even insiders are the ones encouraging the hoodlums? We had in the news, I think last week or so, whereby one of them said, we have seen helicopters of this and all that dropping weapons to them. We have had Wadume. You remember what Wadume have been talking about? Do you understand? So these are the issues that need to be looked into seriously before we can say, yes, we want to fight this war. Not until when we do that, it will continue. Just like Dr. said, so many of them are feeding fat on this issue.
But there is no evidence to that anywhere yet.
When the person that commanded the helicopter to go and drop weapons somewhere will not be paid. The person that ordered release of Wadume will not be paid. You heard how much Wadume said it's been paid?
That is what I'm saying. Until there is evidence, until there is proof.
Which evidence?
Until there is proof that something like that happened.
When you are saying,
for instance,
real proof.
Yeah, for instance.
You are saying, look at the Badu guys. Look at the Badu guys that were called the other time. They mention names. Have they been arrested? Have they been quizzed? What has happened to those people? When you are looking at them like that, look at even the country. This person embezzle money, that person embezzle money. You are not doing anything. If I get there too, I will embezzle money. And that is why we are seeing all this on the development in our country.
We look forward to that change. Dotun, I wonder how challenging it will be when it comes to, because rotating the leadership of the theater command it has been going on several times just to inject new ideas and all of that. But this now is the issue of let us wrap up and go home. Does it look like, or does it send signals that we're close to the end of the war?
Of course, politically, yes. Politically, and I think the intention of the statement really is to, number one, motivate the troops, and number two, to send a political statement to the Nigerian people that, after all, our military is not sleeping. Unfortunately, it may not work exactly the way the command has been given. So apart from even changing, I think it's about time for us to have another security framework, national security framework, that's going to lay emphasis on technology than the brain of one worn-out general. And in all fairness, you see, the 21st century thinking does not see man as the ultimate factor when it comes to fight against terrorism. The only thing that man is needed for is to be able to use technology to think his way out of trouble. Unfortunately, we are so traditional in our thinking that we still think that, oh, it's the big generals somewhere that are supposed to provide solution to it. So I think going forward, there should be, thank God we have a president who understands the art of war. Though whether his understanding of the war is outdated is another thing entirely. But I think we should engage people who can actually help us in the area of technology.
In the 80s, when he chased Meitasine out of the country, it was in the same region when he chased them into Chad under the Shagari administration.
I listened to that in a former radio station. I listened to that documentary, and I was joyous. At the same time, I began to think that this man who had the capacity to do this in the early 80s, unfortunately may not have the capacity to do it now, not in terms of age or what has changed, but the only thing that has changed majorly is the use of technology. You are not going to be using your feet to chase Boko Haram. From here to Ore, for example, I met a police commissioner who was telling me that the headers, I don't know whether they are Fulani but the headers understand the forest more than the owners of the forest, the traditional owners of the forest. Is that where you want to be chasing them to? You cannot chase them. So you need technology to be able to identify their location.
But they've talked about deploying drones. They've talked about deploying drones
not the drones that look like cameraman drones.
See, it's about the will, Dr. It's not about technology here now. The technology is there. We have the technical know-how, but it's the will, the body language, your philosophy to defeat these people. It's about the will. The moment the will is, formally said, whenever there is a will, there will always be a way.
And I think apart from even the technology that I talk of, because there are a lot of things in fairness, there are a lot of things that are driving this Boko Haramism or insecurity we talk about. And those are the principle of the three controls we never had in the country. And that's what is haunting us now. The first control we never had is population control. So if any crime has advantage of population, how do you want to curb it? You go on the street of the north today, you can recruit as many people as possible to fight against the government. The second control we don't have is greed control. And the people in authority continue to feed fat from the fight against terror. They do not want it to end. And the third control we don't have is religious control. Any word that hides under religion or any ideology that is placed under religion in a religious continent like Africa is going to be difficult because religion is actually the heart of the people. And anything that hides under it becomes very difficult for you to tackle.
All right. We hope to be able to have control over these three things that we don't have control over so that things can get better. Thank you very much, Dr. John, for coming on the program. Dr. Dayo Kayode, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Right.